Welcome to the Driver's Line. I'm Greg.
And I'm Jordan.
And today, we've got a conversation for you.
In our conversation, we're going to be looking at the crystal ball through the year 2026 to see who we think are going to be the biggest winners and losers.
That's right. So we've gone ahead and really put our brains to the test and wanted to look ahead and see which auto manufacturer is going to have a great 2026 and which one might not be looking so good. We're not going to say they're going to necessarily go away, but they might look a little bit different by the end of the year versus how they look now.
Now, keep in mind, we are doing this in January, so we got a lot of year left.
We do.
So don't come back at us in December.
You can come back at us. It's fine. We stand by our takes.
It's fine. No, it's true.
However hot or cold they are.
Very true. Very true. I say this because for my winner, I picked something a little controversial, I think, perhaps. Because this is a brand that has a very turbulent past, I will say. They were once known as the standard of the world, but in the Melee's era, that really just vanished completely. But in later years, like here around after the 2000s, when they started getting their mojo back, they started getting some younger buyers, and that was really their momentum here. So
maybe you might call them iconic now.
They might be iconic. And we're talking about Cadillac, of course. Cadillac had an immense 2025. They took home a bunch of awards. Specifically, they had Motor Trend's SUV of the Year in the Escalade IQ, which is a very large, expensive SUV. But, you know, Motor Trend said that gives you a ton of equipment for that price. But it's also something I think that really represents the brand well.
Also got to stop you there. A much more important award, the Cadillac Escalade IQ won, was the Driver's Line.
That's right.
SUV of the Year as well, my friends. So go back and look at that episode where we talk about it a little bit more in depth. Because
absolutely.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous piece of engineering.
And just as we spoke back then, it still holds true today. It is a vehicle that still is getting headlines. It's still increasing in sales. And for something that's so expensive, that's really remarkable in an economy like today. But it really promotes the brand essence really well. It's large, it's over the top, it's extravagant, and that's what Cadillac should be.
Needs to be.
Yeah.
Needs to be. These are the cars they need to make that, the Celestique. Right? These are the cars that are going to make Cadillac be the standard of the world again. We're not going to talk about being iconic because that is a stupid tagline. They need to be the standard of the world, and this is what's going to make them be the standard of the world, or vehicles like those.
Yeah, so, I mean, when you think of Cadillac brand, over the top is synonymous with that, right? So we have an over the top, large, heavy, powerful electric SUV. We have the same thing in the Celestique, but obviously in a more flowing sedan shape. But we also have over the top in terms of performance. We have the Blackwing siblings, and they were awarded Car and Driver's 10 Best again. So that chassis's been out for a while, and it's
a long time.
Still winning awards.
Yes. You know, we get a lot of press cars to test, and I've got the older cousin, of course, of the CT4V Blackwing, the ATS-V, and every time I get back in my car after driving some of these press cars, I'm just blown away again at how good that chassis is 10 years later.
Yeah, I mean, they were saying that they're going to be cutting production of them, but I do think that, like, deep inside GM, they're like, I don't know if we should be doing this. So I know the CT5 is going to be holding on for a bit longer, CT4 not so much, but we would love to see them continue down that performance road, because while it doesn't really sync necessarily with Cadillac's electric reinvention, because we have seen them make huge strides in their EVs, and we're going to get to that in a second, we don't want to see those performance cars go away, because that also represents the spirit of Cadillac. It's over the top, it's ostentatious, it demands attention.
It does, and it's been, you know, so great that a lot of that greatness has started filtering down. You know, one of the best small electric SUVs is the Optic. Phenomenal little EV, and it doesn't cost a ton either. Like, I mean, this is something that gets you that Cadillac experience without, you know, completely breaking the bank.
Absolutely. I mean, it has standout styling, and, you know, also something that I really love about these Cadillacs is when you sit inside of them, like, you know that it's different, but it's not like sterile and cold. Like, luxury cars shouldn't be like that. And I think so many luxury brands are pursuing that because they saw Tesla have success with it. But Tesla is not a luxury company. It's a tech company. And so all these vehicles that are coming out with such clean interiors, you know, that's not going to last. When you're looking at a trajectory here, it doesn't reflect the brand. And I think Cadillac has done a great job with that portion of their designs. I think that's really speaking to consumers.
They do, and one of the places people spend most of their time in their life is in their vehicle if they have a commute, traveling, things of that nature, right? We want to sit somewhere that feels warm, cozy, and comfortable. I don't want to sit in a sterile environment.
No.
It's not ideal. But Cadillac has started to realize this and has started really working on their interiors, making them a lot better than they used to be, and also a lot different than the competition.
And we know, like with vehicles like the Celestiq, GM has been engineering a lot of pioneering technology like 3D printed parts that obviously is going to be coming down to other vehicles in its lineup, like all the way down to the Optic, I'm sure, down the road. So it's really nice to see GM pursuing these things with Cadillac.
Absolutely. I mean, wonderful call out. I mean, I've really loved what Cadillac has done. I'm not just saying this because I'm an owner, but they've really just done a wonderful job with their model lineup, top to bottom. Really, really well done. Kudos to Cadillac, and I think they are setting themselves up for a really successful 26. The only thing that might hurt them is the fact that EVs are pulling back pretty hard right now.
Right.
Like, didn't GM, I think, just wrote down like billions of dollars just in EV investment, just because I think the market is kind of saturated, and they've leaned really heavily into it, right? So this is probably one of their biggest challenges for 26, but I mean, their product set is second to none right now.
Yeah, I think they've made so much headway into that market, though, that a lot of people have already bought their first Lyriq, and now they're looking to get another one, for instance, right? Because it was one of the first ones in that market. So I think while the market is going to shrink, they still have a nice solid foothold in that market.
No, absolutely. I mean, good call out.
All right, what'd you pick for your biggest winner?
All right, looking ahead, I think this brand has really set themselves up for success because one of the vehicles they just dropped literally this month in February is going to look really good on the sales charts for 2026. I'm talking about Kia. Kia has been killing it recently, just completely within the marketplace. So they've kicked off January with an all-time high sale of 64,500 vehicles in the United States, an increase of 13% over January last year. In a time when sales are hard right now, like the car sales environment is down. You're starting to see a lot longer wait times on lots. The days the cars have been sitting on the lots has been increasing, but not for Kia. Kia is continuing with really big time record sales. 6 different models set record sales for January. Your favorite, the Carnival, the Sportage, the K5, the Seltos, the K4, and even the arthritic Telluride, the one that just got replaced with the all-new 2027 Telluride, which is hitting dealers as we speak. If you guys recall, when the last Telluride hit dealers, massive markups. Like, people were begging for this thing. Like, massive wait times, massive markups. People were able to like flip these for profit. You're talking about a Kia SUV. Come on. I don't think that's going to happen with the new Telluride. It's not because it's bad. It's just because we're in a different environment now than we were when that first Telluride came out. So I think this one's going to sell extremely strongly, but I don't think you're going to have to wait to get one necessarily. Except for maybe like within the first month or two. And I don't think you'll need to pay an ADM because they're not even charging them right now. You can walk into a Kia dealer and get one for MSRP. You're not going to get anything off.
Right.
But you're going to be able to get one at least for what Kia says you should have to pay for one. Another bump this year I think is going to be the K4 hatchback, which we got to see debuted at the New York International Auto Show last year. Hatchbacks are kind of having a little bit of a renaissance here in the United States. The K4 is one of their best sellers. It's also a really strong competitor in that segment. And this is just going to add an additional model for Kia to help, balloon some of that sales volume. So with that said, I think really the biggest headwind that could be facing them right now is tariffs. The president just said that he's going to, put some additional tariffs on Korea to, increase that on the Korean cars, I think, to like 25%, which is tough. But, we probably shouldn't worry about those until they happen because, until then, I've really just got a hankering for a taco.
They're pretty delicious.
Yeah. But all that to say, I think Kia is going to have a really, really strong 2026. They've got some new product coming out. They've got strong sales in their existing models already. And as car prices get more expensive and, buyers find themselves with less and less money, who's going to be positioned for success? And that's going to be a bargain manufacturer like Kia.
Very fair. I mean, Kia's always had a reputation for packing their cars with features for a low price. That's never going to not be popular, right? When people are spending money. And I think, in the past, Kia's designs were pretty derivative, but I think, as you said, with the Telluride, that was one of the first SUVs that really started to set the trend for boxy SUVs. And we see that now is extremely popular. And the next Telluride is going to follow in those footsteps for sure.
Yeah, it just elevated the design, kind of made it look even a little bit more Range Rover-y, so maybe slightly derivative.
Yeah,
but you know what? It's still distinctly Telluride, right? Like, I mean, you're not going to look at that and think anything else besides Telluride, which is really kind of cool that Kia has carved themselves out their own little niche here within that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as derivative as the Palisade, let's say.
True.
But still, yeah, I think that's a great call. Kia is definitely a brand to watch for 2026, without a doubt. All right, so one of the brands that we have talked about endlessly, but I don't think we've actually officially called it a death watch, is Stellantis. Only because they have made a ton of odd choices. But to be frank, they have really set themselves up for failure. Because when you look at the brands that are underneath this umbrella, it's like a who's who of who don't we want to buy from.
Yes.
We're talking about vehicles that are notably unreliable, inefficient, poorly designed. It's sad. But they're just, some of the choices here are perplexing. Like, let's launch a muscle car that's only electric, and then realize people don't want this. So let's shoehorn in an engine now and make that work.
I know. Let's also just make it our Hurricane straight six twin turbo, which makes a lot of great power and is a really good engine. So not saying that, but that's not what the market wants. And so now they've walked that back too, and they're like, hey, you know what? We're just going to put the Hemi back in it. Which is what people want.
Which is what they did with their Ram, too. Yep. So they're making some choices here to try to fix the... But they've dug themselves into such a hole with all these brands. So primarily we're going to focus on a couple here. I'm going to start off with Alfa Romeo, because it's alphabetically first, too. We love Alfa Romeo, right? And what car guy doesn't? But we have cars here that have been on the market for years and years and years without any significant changes. If you want something that sounds nice and drives well, great. But, Alfa doesn't have the best reputation for reliability. They're not really changing that out in the ecosystem at all. Although, we've heard that they're also generally okay, but
yeah, they're also under the Stellantis umbrella, which doesn't have a great reputation for reliability.
Exactly.
I mean, they're like doubly screwed.
Yeah, I mean, interior-wise, it's kind of like not keeping up with everybody else, even American brands, which have a reputation for not having that. I mean, they're far exceeding them in that regard. So, I think we're seeing a shrinking continuously of the Alfa Romeo brand, as well as Maserati. Right, their sibling there, which they're not going to be big sellers anyway. Don't get me wrong, but as harbingers of your brand reputation, they're not really doing well. No. And then we kind of fall into the more mainstream brands. I think we've talked about Chrysler before because they're strictly a minivan company.
Strictly.
Tell me how well minivans are doing right now.
Tell me how well a minivan that's been on the market for the last 8 years is doing.
And then you're going to take one and strip out its main features and just give it a different name. Why?
I don't understand it.
Why do we have... Okay. And so when pressed about this, right, the CEO of Chrysler said, no, we have tons of plans invested in it, and all we have is a concept car right now. So I'm not sure where we're going with this. There hasn't really been any true movement when it comes to production vehicles that we could tell. Lots of vaporware, and that's it. So it's really sad to see, this is the name of the company at one point, right, and now... It's definitely a brand that's on our death watch list for sure. Yeah,
they've been killing off stuff that they put a big investment to, right? You had the Hornet, which was the sibling of the Tonale, which was overpriced for a Dodge, small Dodge SUV. Yep. Nobody bought it, so they decided to kill it, right? The Wagoneer S, they had a huge push for this thing, EV, Jeep, Wagoneer. Honestly, it seemed like a nice vehicle, but nobody wants it because nobody wants an electric Jeep.
Yeah.
It's just one of those situations where these things, if anybody had put any critical thinking down, they wouldn't have made any of these decisions. And, they tried to swing, I think, a little bit too much with the times. They tried to stay a little bit too on the point of relevancy, that they made these decisions and then end up having to live with them when they could have just been doing what they were doing and they would have been ahead now,
Right.
if that makes
Sure.
sense, right?
Yeah.
Like if they had said, you know what, we're just going to keep making the Jeeps the way that we're making them, and ICE, hybrid, whatever, and we're going to keep making our, we make a new Charger, we make a new Challenger, but we do it with V8 power. They would be ahead of the game now because everybody's walking that back. Porsche has canceled their EV Boxster and Cayman because nobody wants it. Huge investment wasted. How much does Stellantis rate down? I think it was a couple billion as well, just off of these EV losses and loss of development. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, you hate to see it because these are good storied companies, but when you make bad decision after bad decision, this is what happens.
Yeah, when you're a brand not selling a ton of models stateside, I mean, Fiat's probably somewhat successful in Europe, don't get me wrong, but, when you look at the domestic market here, that's a big source of revenue. So you're not pulling in a bunch, and then you're writing off 20 billion euros because of your EV-related stuff. That's a big hit to take. That's a big hit to take. Especially when brands that were once popular, like Jeep, have had a really rough 2025 because you are walking away from what made Jeep once a storied brand, right? We're talking about capability at a decent price. Well, no one said it needs to be cheap. But, this isn't post-COVID prices now. Like, we can't hold on to that.
The decent price has gone completely out the window.
Absolutely.
Like, I've seen so many other, podcasters, journalists, everyone talking about the same topic. Jeep has priced themselves out of their buyer pool.
Yeah, and so what are we going to do? We're going to make a $70,000 full-size electric SUV as the Recon. And what?
No.
we had an electric Jeep.
Yeah, and with the new Cherokee, they had an opportunity to do something that nobody else was doing and put that back to like something that's like body on frame, off-road capable in a smaller package, right? Yeah. They chose to kind of continue along with what the old Cherokee was, which was a rebadged Fiat.
Yeah, it's such a shame because, I mean, we see that the 4Runner does wonders for Toyota, right?
One of their biggest sellers.
Land Cruiser, I mean, the GX, I mean, they have really held on to that market. And Jeep has a brand there with the Cherokee that could really capitalize on that. It's a shame that they aren't taking advantage of it.
Massive shame. When I heard that we're getting an all-new Cherokee, I was like, this is the thing they need to do. And then, we got another crossover.
Yeah. So we'll see where 2026 takes them, but I don't think it's looking too great.
Yeah. Well, 2026 is also looking not great for another EV manufacturer. This is one that has seen constant decreases in sales. They're down 100,000 units over 2024. They had a really rough 2025, and it looks like 2026 is going to be just as bad because they have decided to cancel two of their models, the Model S and the Model X. Of course, I'm talking about Tesla because they decided, since they're a technology company, they need capacity to build robots.
Sorry. That's pretty funny.
That is the reason why they canceled the S and the X, is because they need capacity to build Optimus robots, which their CEO is sure are going to find a home in everybody's household. Because everybody's going to need a dancing robot that can't really do any other tasks.
I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. It's not because we don't want to invest in a replacement for the Model S, which has been around for what?
Yeah, no, come on, give us the Model. The Model S was their best vehicle.
Yeah.
It was still their best vehicle, even though it was the oldest thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It was their best.
We enjoyed it when we drove it.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Great car.
Yeah.
Well styled, well built, well designed, fast, smooth, quiet. Great. Just give us a second generation of that. We don't need robots. Anyways. Sexy's dead.
Sexy's dead. Yeah,
So
that's true.
BYD also surpassed Tesla as the top EV automaker in the world.
Wonder why that
They're
is.
also not seeing a great run of it themselves. They're down too because EVs again are starting to shrink back a little bit with the saturation. But BYD has now surpassed Tesla. BYD makes excellent vehicles, by the way, which we may actually be able to get our hands on now because Canada has removed all the tariffs on Chinese cars. So maybe we'll be able to sneak one down from our friends in the north because, even very famously, Jim Farley from Ford said that he was driving around a BYD and he said this blows away anything that we make right now. And they do it at a much lower price point too, which, I mean, if those Chinese EVs get into our market, they are going to absolutely dominate. So demand is continuing to soften for EVs. And, a lot of people are reevaluating what they're going to bring to market. We've seen it with Porsche. We're obviously seeing it with Tesla now. We're seeing it with Stellantis and Dodge. Like, I mean, everybody is looking at their EV portfolio and saying, you know what, we might need to scale this back a little bit because, again, there's just so much market saturation with EVs right now, and that's going to hurt Tesla as a whole because that is all they do.
Yep, that is all.
You know, they want to call themselves a technology company, cool, but a lot of your technology isn't here yet. You know, I mean, you had the thing that I always thought Tesla was really going to pivot to was energy, and I think they could still do that and be wholly profitable because as much smack as we talk about them, they still have the absolute best, by far, charging network.
Yeah.
Anybody. Easy, fast, reliable. That's all you need. And lots of locations, 4 things. Right? That's what they do. They have it in spades, and it's really well done. Nobody else touches this. Literally nobody else.
I mean, it's so well done that they've established a standard for charging networks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's using their system now.
Yeah.
So when you have other automakers using your technology for their charging, I mean, you could really dominate that field.
Yeah. And, you know, Tesla's also really been missing on a lot of their new product. I'm not going to beat the Cybertruck up because we've already done that enough, but massively missing on what they thought the target sales of that thing would be. They had to sell like 1,000 or 2,000 of them to SpaceX just to get some of them moved off the lot.
Gotta make room.
Yeah, exactly. So he just sold them to another one of his companies. You know, so fine, whatever. The Roadster, that was announced for 2020 and I think 2017.
2026.
It's 2026. We still have no new Roadster. The Semi announced in 2019.
We saw a couple of them on the road.
Yeah, there's like 1 or 2 out there. They have not scaled production at these things, you know, on these things at all. And frankly, a Semi actually makes a lot of sense, I think, for an EV because you could also develop a trailer that gives it extended range from a charging perspective. And then, you know, once it gets to its destination, you could hook up a new trailer, new battery, right? I think it makes a lot of sense. It just hasn't happened, right? Like a lot of the things that company talks about, you know, happening don't really actually happen. We've talked about the robotaxi. You know, Tesla said this robotaxi is going to be the next great thing. We're going to compete with Waymo. We're going to be, I think, all over the country by the end of last year, which we're not. You know, we're only in Austin. We're in a little bit of California, and they had safety monitors in the vehicles. Their crash rate has been like twice that of a human driver, and that's with the safety monitor sitting up front. Again, small sample size is only like 55,000 miles traveled, which definitely skews the results, but
still,
it's not good. I mean, none of the things they're doing seems to be working all that well. You know, FSD still is a decent product. Not going to argue that. It's one of the best self-driving products out there, up there with GM's Super Cruise, but it's not infallible. It's not good enough to be completely autonomous.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why they have a safety monitor. They've, you know, started this little thing where they pulled the safety monitors out of the cars, but guess what's following the robotaxi?
A safety monitor.
Yeah, there's a safety monitor and a Model Y. So, you know, I mean, it's just all these pie in the sky ideas they have to pump the stock. That's all they do. And I think while the stock is probably going to still be successful for this year, I think the automaker itself is going to see further declines.
Yeah, and I think the elephant in the room is leadership there too. You know, as we're getting involved in more controversial things, that's going to hurt your reputation, especially globally. So as you see BYD coming into play, that's really going to be a big challenge for a company like Tesla that in the automotive realm is pretty limited, right, when it comes to scale. So
yeah, I mean, as far down as Tesla is in the United States, it's a shadow of how far they're down in other countries. Like, I mean, they are just absolutely abysmal in Europe right now, largely born out of the political climate. So you hate to see it happen to an American company, you really do, because we want Tesla to be successful, but right now they're just kind of like Stellantis. They're just making a lot of bad decisions, and they're also not coming to fruition a lot of these ideas that were sort of pie in the sky.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so you heard our biggest winners and losers that we think is going to happen during 2026. What are some brands that you want to call out?
Yeah, drop them in the comments. We'd be interested to see who you think is going to be someone who's going to outperform in 2026 and someone who might lag behind a little bit.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on The Driver's Line.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss a thing.